Hello and welcome to yet another blockbuster episode of the WION Sports Broadband Edition with me, Digvijay Singh Deo. This is our milestone 50th episode, and to celebrate this, we are joined by a true great of world sport. My guest today is an Olympic medalist from 2016. He's a world champion of badminton from 2017. He's a former world number one. And he's also the reigning All England champion. Viktor Axelsen, thank you so much for joining me from Denmark. How have you been and how has these last couple of months been for you?
Thank you so much. It was a nice introduction for sure, so I appreciate it. The last few months has obviously been a challenge. I think for every person on the planet almost, and for athletes, of course, in particular, because everything has been put on hold. Practice has also been different than usual. It's been hard to practice probably. However, we've been really fortunate that the situation in Denmark is getting better and better. So at this point, we're practicing a little bit again.
It's interesting you mentioned Denmark, Viktor, because been reading up that things are completely opened up, and there is talk that they're going to open up borders also by the end of this month. How do the rest of the people in Denmark are reacting to this? The fact that everything's going to be back to normal pretty soon. Are they agreeing with the view of the government on this?
I can't really speak on the Danish people as a whole. I can only sort of follow the guidance and the rules which are laid out by the government. So far, the situation is getting better and better. And I just hope that all around the world, this crisis will be over sooner rather than later.
And because you play in a truly global sport, Viktor, you play a sport where you have to travel from one country to another. Personally, for you, how frustrating has this period been sitting at home?
It has been really frustrating, of course. Normally we're used to a lot of travels, a lot of tournaments, and that's why we play. It's to play the tournaments and to prepare well at home and stuff like that. And everything has just been put on hold, as I said, and it hasn't been possible to do what we usually do. So it's definitely been a challenge, especially mentally, but also physically, to keep in shape. So it's been a challenge both physically and mentally to keep in shape. But so far so good. You can only take one day at a time, and that's what I've been doing.
Okay, well, actually going through your social media feeds, and they've been buzzing because you've used this period very well. Lots of tips to people. You've been commenting on situations. Your best days are ahead of you right now. You still have the best to achieve when it comes to badminton, but somehow I see a career in the media happening, Viktor.
I definitely think that the social media world is a fun sort of side thing I have going, and I think being an athlete and being in a fortunate position where I can motivate others and maybe get a few tips which people find useful, that's a big privilege for me. So I try to do my best, and maybe in the future I will spend even more energy on it.
Seeing those videos on your social media pages sort of tells us that you have been pretty active. But have you had a chance to return to the badminton courts and start training full time?
Not full time yet, but we are able to practice like 1.5 hours a day. So right now it's still a limited amount of players, and we're not back to full throttle yet. However, it's definitely better than nothing, and I'm really happy to be back in the hall. At this point.
So how did it feel when you finally hit the courts? Were you rusty, or did everything feel okay, or you felt that it was going to take some time for you to get the feel of things back again?
Definitely rusty, and it takes some time to get back into a good shape. However, I think that I'm doing pretty okay, and obviously we have started out slowly, so we are trying to avoid injuries and stuff like that.
Okay, you mentioned injuries, and you missed a large part of last season because of a persistent leg injury, but you seem to have put all of that behind you because you made a great start to 2020. Do you feel like this second break which we are seeing right now, will this actually help you, or do you think it's derailed your momentum of coming back?
It's hard to say. I think it will help me because I'll try to take this as an opportunity to practice hard and get back even stronger. And again, I try to focus on the things I can actually control, and this whole situation is definitely something which is out of my hands. So I'm just trying to adapt the best way possible and do my best to come back stronger, and that's what I'm sort of focusing on at the moment. So I'm going to try to use it as an advantage.
Victor, I'm sure you were looking forward to the Olympic Games and to, improve on the bronze that you won in 2016. Now, the Olympics have been pushed back by a year, and now the BWF has also come up with the revised Olympic qualification guidelines, which also resume sort of next year as well. How do you look at these developments?
I think that it was the right decision because obviously right now the crisis is far from being over. So I think that there was no other step to sort of take, and even though it's a shame, there's nothing else to do than just focus all my energy on my practice and my preparation towards the 2021 Olympics. However, there's still 1 year now, so there's a lot of tournaments beforehand. So right now my focus is on getting back to a good shape and being ready to play tournaments again when things starts rolling.
Okay, fair enough. But Victor, when you play the Olympic Games, when you prepare for an event which is once in 4 years, does it need different preparation? You play day in, day out on the BWF tour, but I've seen it with the Indian players as well, that once they qualify for the Olympics, they take a couple of months away from the sport just to prepare for the Olympics. Is that how you go about it as well?
I haven't really laid any plans about my preparation towards the Olympics yet because we're not really sure about the calendar and what I'm going to play within 2021 and stuff like that. So obviously it's going to be a different situation now with the tournaments and the qualification being different than usual. So I have to first sit down with my coach and sort of prepare all my tournaments and my traveling.
Okay, do you think, Victor, that with all this uncertainty around, that ultimately this is going to affect a lot of players who are not used to it? The players who are so used to turning up and having things set, for them it's going to be difficult to adjust and to adapt, because what we're going to see right now is a lot of trial and error, not just from the BWF, but from sports across the globe.
Yeah, definitely. I think that every player, every organizer, BWF, everyone included, this is a new situation for all of us, and it's not something we could prepare for. So obviously we're in a really, really tough situation. However, again, the only thing you can do is get the best out of it and take it from there. But it's definitely going to be a challenge for everyone.
Yes, you did mention about the challenges of playing the revised BWF calendar. BWF came up with 22 tournaments. It's a new calendar. It starts probably in September and continues pretty much non-stop till December. What do you make of this new schedule? Do you think it's a bit ambitious, considering that many countries like we in India have still not been able to get out of lockdowns?
Yeah, I think it's really, really ambitious. So many tournaments in such short amount of time. You really as a player have to be careful about not getting injuries. And I really hope that that players they think twice before they play like 10 tournaments in a row, or play like 6 out of 8 weeks and stuff like that, because it's really, really tough on the body. So as a player you really have to be careful, and I don't know what's the right thing to do, to be honest, but playing so many tournaments within such a short amount of time is definitely not good for the body, and it's really tough on the joints and everything. So me personally, I have to be careful.
Victor, a lot of players here in India also expressed their concerns and were very vocal when this schedule sort of was released, and the BWF has then gone on and clarified that you don't need to play each and every event. But how do you balance this need? Because players need competitions to sort of get back into the groove, And there's also those who are on the verge of qualifying for the Olympics. They need to play as many tournaments as possible. It's going to be a tough choice to make, isn't it?
Really tough choice. In this situation, I think it's really tough to give a right answer and to know what's right or wrong, because again, we haven't been in this situation before. There is a lot of things going into it. There's a lot of financial stuff, probably from the organizers and BWF and stuff like that, and TV rights, whatever, all the things I don't know anything about. It's probably also something which every sport organization has to sort of take into account. I do hope, though, for the players' sake, that there are rules being made so we are not sort of pushed to play all tournaments. And it's good. I haven't read that BWF has been out saying that you don't have to play every tournament, but that's nice to hear, because the athletes' health should come first. And if you have to play 10 tournaments within 12 weeks, as an example, that's definitely not the case. So I think it's really, really important that the athletes are taken care of in this situation as well.
Okay. The other concern is that of these of travel regulations, of quarantine rules in various countries as well, isn't it? And a lot of players have told me, Victor, that these are decisions that will have to be taken very carefully, because when you are traveling for a tournament, you're traveling overseas, at the back of your mind, you know that there's sort of a risk somewhere. And, when you're playing at the top level, you need to be completely clear when you're going into a big tournament.
Yeah, definitely. It's such a tough situation again. And I don't think it's sustainable if a lot of countries, they have to, be in quarantine for 2 weeks upon returning home. I don't think, that's not going to be possible with the calendar we have now. So it's something where we have to see how the situation develops, and hopefully when September comes around, things is better, and we are able to travel more freely around the world. And if that's not the case, then it's going to be really, really tough to live up to the calendar layout which we see right now. Even though I hope that we will be able to play as many tournaments as possible, the situation has to get better first. So let's see what happens. I'm just crossing my fingers here in Denmark.
Yeah, in fact, all of us are crossing our fingers and waiting for sport to resume. But Victor, badminton is primarily an indoor sport. The new normal across the world seems to be no fans. Now, some players thrive off the atmosphere, and you know that in badminton, it can get very noisy and very boisterous. So how does that sort of affect players now with having no fans around?
Well, it's going to be so different. Me personally, I haven't played a tournament without any spectators for a long, long time. So it's definitely going to be different if that's the case, and it's going to be maybe feel like a little bit more like a practice session. And because the fans and the loud cheering and everything definitely, of course, creates an atmosphere which is really special. So it's going to be sad to play without spectators, but it's better than not playing at all. So we'll see how that is. It's going to be crazy and really, really different.
When you spoke about putting the athletes' interests forward and for all sporting organizations to put the athletes' safety at the foremost, you think that sports persons, especially in your sport, which is badminton, they will sort of accept all these compromises that have to be made?
It's really, really tough to say. To be honest, I don't want to say too much about the subject before I sort of see how the situation is going to be in a few months, because many things can happen from day to day, and we'll see how everything turns out. But I would say it is a tough situation for everybody, and obviously BWF, they don't wish to sort of having to be, how do you say, having to play, arrange so many tournaments within such a short amount of time. But right now, it's a tough situation for them as well. But I still feel that the athlete's health and the athlete's, as individuals really has to be taken care of in this situation, and we'll see how the next few months unfolds, and after that, I probably have more to say.
Okay, one of the tournaments which is listed is the Thomas Cup. It's going to be played in your Denmark. It's already been postponed twice. And as you said, with all these rules and all, we don't know if we're going to get a full strength team from most countries. Are you optimistic about this event actually happening?
I think it's just guesswork at this point. It's obviously when some of the countries are still in lockdown and many players aren't really able to practice and stuff like that. My personal opinion is that it's of course not a fair situation at this point. Again, I have to see how this situation sort of unfolds during the next few months before I can make like a sort of a proper guess about if we're going to play or not.
I think that's what is happening currently, isn't it? A lot of guesswork around the world when you're talking about sport. It's a lot about guesswork. But I've been speaking to a lot of Indian athletes. I've spoken to the world champion PV Sindhu in women's. I've also spoken to a lot of our male players who you know pretty well. And they seem to all have a consensus that if you start now, it's going to take about 2.5 months for them to sort of reach peak fitness. That is match sharpness. For you, how much do you estimate yourself? How much time it will take you to get back to the levels you were, say, when you won the All England?
It's tough to say. Obviously, we already started practicing and have been doing this for a solid month to 1.5 months right now. So obviously, we have sort of got a head start a little bit. But to get into, we're still, under limited time. So it's obviously going to take some time still. However, I'm sure that I'm able to be in an okay shape when the tournament starts to get arranged again and to get going. So I'm looking forward to it, of course. But still, there's a lot of time until next tournament. So for me personally, it's also to sort of make sure that I practice the right things at the right times, because this is a really unusual situation. Normally, we only have a few weeks at home before we travel again, but now we're talking several months, so it's a different training situation as well.
Okay, for you personally, been a pretty strong start to the year. You won in Spain, reached the final in Malaysia, then that tearaway triumph at the All England. That was that one big title missing from your cabinet, and must have really felt like you've sort of completed the full set when you won that title and the fashion you won it in.
Definitely, it was a dream coming true for me in All England, and even though it was sort of a pretty how can you say, mixed feelings coming home and everything being locked down, and of course the COVID-19 situation filled a lot during that week. However, it doesn't take anything away from my victory at the All England, and it was a great win for me. And as you say, to sort of get the tournament, the All England tournament on my CV is definitely something which is really special, and I'm really, really happy to be amongst the Danish players who has won the All England.
You mentioned the uncertainty at that point of time, Victor. Did you at any point of time feel that you felt scared, because already the virus had started to take a lot of people were getting affected in the United Kingdom even while the tournament was on. A lot of players were expressing their doubts as well. So how did you manage to shake away all those fears and concentrate only on winning that?
When I go on court, the only thing on my mind is badminton, and that was sort of the approach I took that week. I didn't go much out. I stayed mostly at my hotel room when I wasn't playing any matches. And then again, I sort of put that responsibility on the organizers and the government to take the necessary precautions and everything. I was on work for that week, and I did my best to play some good badminton and followed the guidance, and that's sort of how I feel about it.
Okay, and now with this, once this break is over, we're going to see a really big battle which is brewing in badminton. you were world champion in 17, and then we had Kento Momota come in there, and last day he sort of dominated, and now that you're back to your full fitness, you've shaken away those injuries. That's sort of that marquee rivalry which we are all looking forward to currently in badminton. He's also had a bit of a personal kind of a setback after Malaysia, and sort of we expect him to get back to full fitness soon. But what do you like about each other's games? What is it about his game that brings the best out in you as well?
Obviously, Kento Momota is a complete player. He's probably the biggest talent in badminton right now, and just an amazing athlete. Obviously, personally, I've had it really tough against him, and in some way, it's really nice to have a player like him who sort of pushes you to train harder every day. And I just really hope that I can keep getting better and have many good matches with him in the future. And obviously, I hope that I can win next time. And I'm for sure gonna do my best to practice as hard as possible.
Okay, I'm just gonna step away from badminton for a while, because I was pretty amazed to learn that you can speak Mandarin fluently. Now that's something which is you can be extremely proud of. It's one of a lot of fans obviously in China. So how did you sort of figure out that you have to learn Mandarin, because it's not the easiest language to learn?
Obviously I knew how big of a sport badminton is in China, and I wanted to sort of use my head besides badminton between the practices and stuff like that. So at some point, this might be 4 or 5 years ago now, I decided that, okay, I'm going to start learning a new language, and Mandarin it was. And, every day I just did some kind of Mandarin studies. I got a really good teacher now also. And since then, it has just been a journey to a more fluent Mandarin sort of speaking skills. And I'm really stoked and happy about how it's sort of unfolding, the whole situation, with me being able to speak with many different people and establish new relationships and stuff like that.
Yeah, if I remember, you did an Instagram live, didn't you, with Lee Chong Wei?
Yeah, I did a live Instagram, IG live with Dasu Lee Chong Wei, and it was definitely really fun using my Mandarin there, and obviously, a dream coming true also to be able to speak with a legend like him over a social media account. So it was really nice.
But was he someone you looked up to? You must have played him a lot in your career, but was he someone you really looked up to growing up?
I think every player has been looking up to players like Lee Chong Wei. No one can deny how good of a badminton player he has been, and been consistent over so many years, winning so many titles. It's a big motivation for me to see a player like him winning so much, and also in the way he has been doing it.
Yes, and sadly he's had to retire and move on, but that means that the stage is now open for the next stage of champions to step up. We're seeing you, we're seeing Chu Tianchen, Kento Momota, and the rest step up to fill that breach. But my final question to you, Victor, is that at some point of time when the season completely resumes, because you've had this sort of break, and as you said, you've been training for a while, some haven't been training, do you foresee, and the initial few tournaments sort of seeing very up and down results till the big players sort of get into their groove and sort of get back to that dominating run which we've seen them?
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough for every player to sort of just find the right level of game as we start. It's obviously you're going to be a little bit rusty where in the first tournaments, I think, and maybe it's going to be some time before you sort of get the right feeling on court. Obviously, I personally hope that I will find it really quick. However, it's tough to say how it's going to be, because it's not many players who have been in this situation before, so it's going to be tough to see.
Yes, that unfortunately is the truth, isn't it? Because of this pandemic, that everyone sort of doesn't know where their A game is at the moment. But with the German Bundesliga starting, with the PGA Tour starting next week, sport is sort of finally getting back to some sort of normalcy, and perhaps June and July will really see sports sort of fight back against this pandemic. Thank you so much, Victor, for your time. Hope to see you soon on the courts, and hope to see you again when you're in India. There's an Indian Open scheduled this year, and hopefully by then everything is going to be perfect.
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me to the show, and have a great day.